Aloha and welcome to Live at the Legislature. I'm Carolyn Tanaka. Every week we meet with various members of the House of Representatives to talk about issues, topics, and things that are happening here at the state capitol. This week is going to be a busy week for the House of Representatives, as tomorrow they are poised to pass over to the Senate about 130 pieces of legislation. Joining us this morning is Representative Jarrett Keohokalole. He represents the Kaneohe, Kahalu'u, and Waiahole area on the island of Oahu. Welcome, Representative.
Good morning.
I'm glad to see that you're awake, because apparently I wasn't when we started this program.
Ready to go.
Ready to go, okay. One of the bills that the House has already taken care of, and last week, was House Bill 2611. It deals with drug addiction. You were one of the introducers, you were the introducer of the bill, and you believe that this bill goes beyond substance abuse treatment.
I do. I think that, what we tried to focus on as the House of Representatives at the beginning of the legislative session was working on issues that are top of mind for our constituents, the two primary ones being housing and then homelessness. Mm-hmm. When it comes to homelessness, I think it's become pretty clear. We're now into the fourth year, I think, that this issue is polling as the top priority in the state of Hawaii, that we need broader systems change. We've already talked about housing for the last couple of years, housing homeless. We've talked about mental health services. We've talked about healthcare. One of the parts of the homeless problem that we really don't talk about is the drug addiction side of it. 80% of the chronic homeless population in Hawaii have some sort of severe substance abuse problem, whether it's alcohol, all the way up to the hard drugs, methamphetamine, heroin. And so until we really start to change our systems to acknowledge that we need to help these folks get off of drugs and address their substance abuse issues, it's really going to be difficult to help those folks get off the street. So this piece of legislation is designed, we've worked with our treatment centers, with our service providers to really just change the system in terms of how we interact with homeless, particularly those who are drug addicted. Writing them tickets for sleeping in closed parks or sleeping on the sidewalk and expecting them to go to jail and get treatment, it just is not working. Mm-hmm. So we need a new approach.
And what is that approach that's outlined in this bill?
So, one element is adapting some of the pilot programs that we're already putting forward in the community, having social workers and service providers go out with our first responders, go out with the police, who know in individual communities, who know best what the challenges are with homeless, what type of populations we have, mm-hmm. what types of substances a lot of these folks, especially the ones who are real disruptive in our communities, are under, and just trying to begin a dialogue with those folks to see how we can better provide care for them. There are also some long-term systemic changes that we need to make to our healthcare system, just to acknowledge that treatment works and we need to make it a bigger priority. And the fact that we haven't paid attention to that side of this issue for so long is a real big part of the problem. We are not going to fix homelessness by and large in our communities unless we start to address some of the core issues, and one of them is drug addiction.
You are a majority policy leader for the House Democratic Caucus. So let's talk about homelessness. Obviously is a priority for the House this year. Housing is also a priority this year.
Yes, and so what the approach we've tried to take in this session is to really try and address the housing shortage needs at the middle and the lower end of the income spectrum. It's expensive for everyone in Hawaii, but by and large, the folks at the top are going to be okay. So there's a package of bills that we are going to send out of the House over to the Senate mm-hmm. This week. And it addresses a couple of different areas. The first is developer incentives and developer and reform of the way we develop some of these units. One bill we have will address a sort of a loophole in the condominium development system. Right now, developers, when they open up a condominium, can reserve almost up to half of those units for investors to purchase. So we want to open that up. We want local folks who are interested and in the market to be able to purchase right out of the completion of those projects. We also need to change some of our systems when it comes to housing development to incentivize more rental housing. On the lower end of the spectrum, we are going to pass out a rental assistance bill, which helps the other end of the homeless population, the folks who are right on the bubble, who due to some unforeseen or unfortunate incident, can't make rent and end up on the street. That is a significant part of the homeless population. These folks, if not for a little bit of help, might end up on the streets. So we're going to expand out that rental support proposal. And then the other one is for the folks in the middle, making the earned income tax credit refundable, expanding out the renter's tax credit to try and give folks in the middle some support who are renting, who are working, who are contributing, but are having a hard time because we're so short on housing units.
So we're looking at a comprehensive approach to help all sectors for our citizens.
So, yes and no. The middle and the lower end of the income spectrum are really the folks that we see are having a real hard time in this housing market. So we want to incentivize developers to build for them and to make those units available as soon as we can. We want to help those folks stay where they're at if they are in stable living situations and deal with the cost of living. And we want to help keep the folks who are right on the bubble from falling into homelessness, because it's so much easier, and as a public policy, from that perspective, it's a lot cheaper to just help folks who have unforeseen emergencies that put them at risk of going into homelessness, as opposed to having to, they go out on the street. It's very disruptive to families and children, and then having to help them get back in.
Well, I guess you could go the whole session just dealing with the housing and homeless issues, but there are a lot of other issues that affect our citizens of the state, and the House has some priorities there. For example, we passed the Aid in Dying bill. Any other key bills that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'm really proud of Aid in Dying. The House took a lot of heat last year for not proceeding with the bill that was on the table that came over from the Senate, but I think we took a deliberate approach. We have very strict safeguards, among the strictest in the nation. And so I'm proud of the fact that we took our time, we're deliberate on formulating a policy that works for our state, and we're poised to move it out. We're also looking at good government reform. We have Aid in Dying. We're proceeding with a version of the Federal Hatch Act, which limits the amount of campaign contributions state administrators can contribute. Family leave, promise program, we got a lot on our table.
We got a lot on our table, and we've run out of time, but we're going to have you back. Thank you, Representative, for being with us this morning, and thank you for joining us for Live at the Legislature. See you next week.